Welcome, bienvenidos to the 1347 podcast, episode 1, Healthcare Fraud Detection, the Role of Leadership and Corporate Culture. I'm your host, Leslie Holly, the Managing Principal Partner at Texas Oversight. Okay, let's jump right into this episode. This topic was inspired by a question that was submitted to the Texas Oversight website, and the question was, what is the most important element of detecting healthcare fraud? The answer is simple in my opinion. It's the role of leadership in your organization. I will state it again. The role of leadership in your organization is directly related to the efficiency and effectiveness of detecting healthcare fraud. Okay, let's unpack this answer. Leadership principle number 1. Leaders must be visible and accessible throughout the organization. For example, does your organization's leadership avail themselves to ground-level employees at functions like new employee orientation or continual education training for existing employees? Based on my experience as a former senior executive in healthcare, the profile in leadership is demonstrated when the leaders of an organization are active participants. For example, a leader that sits down for an entire day with employees throughout the organization to complete a mandatory training requirement sends a resounding message from the top down that compliance is a priority. Compare that image with the leader who drops by and makes a 5-minute speech and exits stage right. And or even more, the personable pre-recorded message to the staff. Hashtag active, not passive leadership engagement. Leadership principle number 2. Leadership support by authorizing a permanent and dedicated budget for program integrity matters. For example, does your organization budget for fraud detection and compliance training? Who controls the compliance budget within your organization? Is it a subset of the legal department's budget or a subset of the HR budget? A dedicated compliance budget and funding stream allows for financial independence within an organization. In some organizations, the compliance budget is the first line item to be reduced. Leadership principle number 3. Organizational chart alignment. Where does compliance fit in the big scheme in your organization? Does compliance report to HR, legal, or corporate security? If compliance does not have a manager, a director, a senior vice president, your organization may have an issue. The compliance division must have untethered access to the C-suite on a periodic and recurring basis. The compliance voice and message must come from within the compliance division. Okay, a quick summary of the 3 most important leadership principles in healthcare fraud detection. Number 1, leadership must be visible and accessible. Number 2, leadership must support the program with a respectful budget. And number 3, leadership must provide organizational autonomy for the compliance division. If these principles are not enforced in an organization, then healthcare fraud detection will be impacted greatly. Okay, that concludes this episode. First, thank you for spending 5 minutes out of your life that you can never get back. It's gone. But I trust it was worth it. Big shout out to the Texas Oversight Nation and all the great questions we get each week from our subscribers. Thanks to the 1347 staff who work tirelessly to ensure my job is seamless in producing this podcast. If you found the content of this podcast useful, please let us know by dropping us a line at info at texasoversight.com or subscribing to our group at texasoversight.com and following us on Twitter at Texas Oversight. Please be sure to support the upcoming episode of the 1347 podcast, in which we will cover healthcare fraud detection, the role of data. Lastly, please remember, when your passion meets your purpose, great things will happen. Peace.